protesters and women marched across North America on Saturday to voice their displeasure with the inauguration of Donald Trump as U.S. president. Vancouver had one of the largest such protests. Somewhere between 10 and 15,000 people showed up to march from the Olympic Torch past the U.S. consulate to the newly completed Trump International Hotel Tower in downtown Vancouver. The turnout was easily the largest protest I have ever attended, and while all the familiar activist groups, their banners, and the public sector unions were out in force, I do have to concede that it appeared as though most of the participants were there on their own volition and simply wanted their voices heard. Now, I've noted this before, but Vancouver is a majority-minority city, and yet at every single protest from oil pipelines to Trump, the attendees are predominantly white liberals with a whole lot of guilt to get off their chests. Of course, at any good protest, it's all about the signs people make. So as the crowd was gathering at the Olympic Plaza, I began to ask some of the protesters about their various signs. And here is what I found out.
I think he's a complete idiot. He shows no impulse control. He should grow up and be a gentleman, pull it together, show some class, be a decent human being.
I think he represents xenophobia, racism, and we need to pay attention to what happened in history. And this is just a symbol of what happened in history and what's happening now.
So tell me about the parallels you see between Nazi Germany and the Trump campaign and the man himself.
I'm not trying to say that Donald Trump is a Nazi.
But you have a swastika on your sign with his name.
I think it's immoral that someone who is such a proud misogynist and racist and homophobe and bigot and Islamophobe is in the White House.
Okay, there's a lot of buzzwords there, but I mean, I've found it hard to find true examples where Donald Trump is homophobe. He was the first ever Republican to hold the rainbow flag. I mean, no Republican has ever done that before. Does that not mean anything?
Are you pro-Trump?
One thing is for sure, those protesters were not always happy about having their narrative or facts challenged. After a brief march to Trump Tower, the thousand-strong crowd stopped outside and broke into the predictable chants of "Love Trump's hate" and "Hey, hey, ho, ho, Donald Trump has got to go." But it was also outside of Trump Tower where I was able to interview a few more radical, anarchy-loving leftists and an Earth Mother type.
There's a militant femme bloc marching in Washington today, so we're marching in solidarity with them. We want to abolish capitalism, we want to abolish Trump, we want to abolish private property.
Do you want to light police cars on fire like your pin?
Yeah.
That radical femme blockist who admitted she wants to torch police cars actually chased me down after her comments and tried to withdraw her consent to use her interview after she was informed who Rebel Media were.
Hey, I just want to say, you don't have my consent to use any of that. I don't want you to destroy that footage.
I can't do that. It's a public place.
You've got to love that irony. But the protest was not all anti-Trump. As you may expect, there were a few pro-Trump counter-protesters at the event, and I did see a number of red hats watching from the edges of the march. But one man in particular was brave enough to wear a Hillary for Prison shirt and stand in the middle of the protest right in front of Trump Tower and defend the president. Take a look at this pro-Trump counter-protester and some of his detractors I spoke to right after.
Well, I believe that toughening up the border is very...
So you want to see the wall built?
Absolutely. The wall is already... The wall is already there. The border has been there for a long time. All he wants to do is make it stronger.
How do you feel about these people here who show up to show their free speech trying to censor you right now?
Well, I think it's hypocritical because I've tried to be inclusive with two in my sign, that this includes all of us. This isn't just him. I'm not standing up for just him. I'm standing up for humanity, really. And so I think that people come here and call me a hypocrite and call me names and think I'm an idiot, think I'm dumb. Well, you know what, that's a natural reaction from those type of people. And so, you know, I'm going to show them love and I'm going to show them respect, but I do disagree with their views, just as much as they disagree with mine.
So can I ask you why you decided to put that sign in front of his face?
Because I don't think this person
You don't believe in his freedom to be here?
I think he should have a voice, but I just feel like the media attention on him seems a little too focused on him. Why am I here? Because I support equal rights. I believe that women have been oppressed for a long time. I think the election of Donald Trump is disgusting. I think the views and his views towards women.
Wouldn't you agree that women are more oppressed in countries like Saudi Arabia, China, and Iran?
There's women being oppressed all over the world. I'm not arguing who's more or less oppressed. the fact is that
So have you ever protested against those countries?
have I ever protested? I don't know what you're asking me.
Well, you're protesting against the United States and Donald Trump. Have you ever protested against Saudi Arabia, Iran, or China, where they have terrible human rights abuses?
I have participated in protests like Occupy Wall Street or Kinder Morgan protests.
So tell me why you think my questions were so bad.
The way you're targeting people, it's bullshit.
Why?
The questions.
Because they don't have the right answers. You think they're both.
Expect people from BC to protest and.
Why? There's a Chinese consulate just up the road on Granville Street, and they allow gender-selective abortions that kill millions of baby girls all the time because they prefer male children. But you don't protest that, do you?
Nobody holds protests for that where we live. We aren't from here. We came here to protest. We came here from Sunshine Coast. We had to take a ferry. You don't hear about protests about that over there. You hear about big
people
protests.
who don't have money. People can't have the money to go away and protest in foreign countries.
But you had the money to come here today and protest.
Yes,
It's
because
free, 'cause we live here. We live close enough.
Now, did you catch that interview I did with those two young people at the end who said that they came in from Sunshine Coast by ferry? I didn't catch it at the time, but the girl said she came for free. That makes me wonder how many of Saturday's participants were financed to make it to Vancouver. I mean, obviously there were thousands of people there on their own, but when you see the biggest protest in recent memory in Vancouver, which is the protest capital of Canada, you start to wonder. But this kind of thing is what I've been seeing for years at anti-oil protests. They whine and complain about the current state of affairs in an open and tolerant Western country, yet will not protest a country like Saudi Arabia or Iran, who not only produce copious amounts of Sharia blood oil, but treat women, in the Islamic tradition, as less than men, including sanctioning violence against women in their countries at the hands of men. And yet, I bet not one single person that marched yesterday in Vancouver would ever protest at the Chinese consulate against gender-selective abortions, or at the Saudi consulate for any number of the women's rights abuses I've outlined. Because, as you heard that one protester tell me, those aren't good questions, and quote, not an interesting conversation. Well, guess what? I'm never going to stop asking them those questions until these leftists stop with their hypocrisy. For the Rebel.media, I'm Christopher Wilson. Thanks a lot for watching. You know, at any protest, there are always hypocrites. And that's what I love to do at protests. I love to expose it and show you that these people protesting often just don't have their facts straight or don't really know what they're doing there. So make sure you keep it locked to the Rebels YouTube channel for every single protest that I'm at.